is in that, are you saying like church every Sunday, so that's like church every 7 days, and but then in this other religion they like pray every day
Yes.
at this time.
Right, and think about even within Christianity. Are you in a monastery? Are you in a church? Or are you in a university?
Yeah.
What about the balance of how much relevance realization you're capable compared with that ability? I can't remember the term, but when you're, the combinatorial, it's not obviously to an extreme, it's bad.
But you depend on it.
Exactly, yeah, so.
Because we got the Cartesian idea that the defining feature of reality is clearness, distinction, completion, closure. That is absolutely collapsed. Einstein says there is no such thing as of the all at once. Gödel, there is no final formal system that is simultaneously complete and consistent. That is a deductive certainty. You can't have it.
Right.
Stop looking for that. That can't be the definition of real, because if your definition of real says nothing is real, that's a bad definition. Because real is comparative. Whenever I say something is real, I'm comparing it to something that's illusory. Whenever I say something's illusory, I'm comparing it to something that's more real. So Plato, for example, the classic thing, the shadow is less real than the stick. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. What does he mean by that? He means I can use the stick to explain the shadow, not the shadow to explain the stick. Why? Because the shadow bottoms out. The amount of intelligible information that comes out of it is like, and you're done. The stick is like, ooh. This is what people mean, I argue, when they say meaning in life needs to be connected to something bigger than myself. They don't mean like I chain you to a mountain and you're like, oh, ah. Okay? When you're in the dream world, it's this world and it seems real to you, yes? And now notice the words I'm going to use. I'm going to wake up, that's what Buddha means. I'm going to turn on the lights, enlighten. I wake up, I enlighten the larger world. That world's now the real world. Why? Because this world can explain that world, but that world can't explain this world. Yes? Now think about that. What does that mean? Realness is always a comparative of an increase in intelligibility. Yes?
Say that one more time.
Realness is always a comparative of increase in intelligibility.
A comparative.
Right. So the waking world is more, right? And notice what we find meaning in life.
Increase in intelligibility.
Yeah, we use enlightenment metaphors and we use our meaning in life metaphors are about that. So this is really central.
Yeah.
This is the work of Polanyi, right? The scientist philosopher. Anything is actually inexhaustible. Here's Plato. Have you seen this object? Oh yeah, sure, I just saw it. Tell me when you've seen all the object. Tell me when you've seen it all.
You could just move your fingers.
How, do you understand? How many aspects does this have? Combinatorially explosive. And here's the freaky thing. It's not a cacophony. It all hangs together like the notes of a melody. They're not logically identical. That's not identical to that. Yet it all hangs together. That's what Plato meant by a form. He didn't mean like something off there. He meant this through line that binds it all together. But it's a no thing. Because it's not any aspect. Not anything you can see. It's what binds them all together. And what it does is it's constantly pointing you towards the inexhaustibleness of it. So the fact that it's combinatorially explosive seems terrifying, and I get it, because when you overwhelm people, they go ah, right? And awe and horror are only this far from each other, effectively. But if it wasn't that way, you can actually make judgments of realness. Realness depends on the Tao is a well that is never used up. I can keep drawing from it and drawing from it and drawing from it. I can transcend, and reality's there waiting for me with more. That's what makes it real.
So one of the things that's been sitting with me for relevance realization, it's about caring about something. So there needs to be a touchstone of understanding what it means to care for something.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering about is developmentally, early early children, attachment issues, mental illness, or challenges to relevance realization.
Oh yeah. So we published a paper. Sorry, I keep doing this. So, like, there isn't a single mental illness. You know that. There's like there's here, but there's a continuum that grabs a lot of things. The continuum isn't itself a mental illness. That's all I'm saying. It's the continuum between autism and schizotypical psychosis. So the autistic person prioritizes features and leaves out the gestalt. The schizotypical psychotic, because there's other forms of psychosis, the schizotypical psychotic sees patterns that aren't there. And we're all on this continuum, by the way. Published a paper saying, look, if you take predictive processing and relevance realization integrated together, it makes perfect sense, because what you're doing is you're just moving along here. And here's an added idea, and this integrates with a paper published on personality theory. Maybe personality traits are different adaptive orientations to reality, and what we do is we distribute them through the population because there's no one final solution to relevance realization. What we have is a bunch of different ones, and they're all constantly doing this distributed thing with each other, so the collective does better relevance realization than the individual. And you can show that in specific cases, right? So for example, if you have a population that has the schizotypical gene in it, not schizotypy, but the schizotypical gene, that population does better than one that doesn't. I mean cognitively better.
Interesting.
That's the ultimate kind of reciprocal opening.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's Plato. You're doing reciprocal opening, and you're the inexhaustible is coming more. You're getting this increase in intelligibility, which means you're getting an increase in realness and different levels of self and world, or like
Back to the DNA.
So you're not trying to steer towards having more relevance realization, and you're saying that it's good to have this broad cross section of different.
There is so this impacts with the notion of the sacred. So the notion of the sacred. So for a very long time, by the way, in the ancient Greek philosophy, the infinite is bad because the infinite is like it has no definition, it has no form. Therefore, it doesn't make any sense. How could the sacred be that? It was people like Proclus and especially Nicholas of Cusa that said, no, the infinite is actually way better than the finite. Right? So we've already done this. So now I'm criticizing Plato a lot. You hear that? So although I love Plato, Aristotle said this, although I love Plato, I love the truth more. Right? What a nasty thing to say for your teacher. Right? We also had an idea of the sacred as, or the divine as the complete, right? The finished. So Plato had a notion that the sacred is absolutely static. Because if it changed, it must be moving away from perfection, and the sacred is perfect, where the perfect means finite, closed, finished. But if the sacred means your sense of reciprocally opening to what is more real, with relevance realization, there is no final form of relevance realization. Asking for the final form of relevance realization is like asking for, what's the final form of evolution? What's the final form of life? That doesn't make any sense. You haven't understood life if you ask that question. If you understand relevance realization and you understand reality as inexhaustible, the sacred can't be the final form. And I'm going to use this phrase, and it's deliberately provocative. There is no final solution. We've got to give, and the Nazi regime is that notion of the sacred taken to its deadly consequence. To let that go. And I think part of the advent of the sacred is, okay, what does it, we're going from transcending up into transcending in. We're going from the sacred as the perfect, the complete, the finite closed, the pure, into, no, it's this ongoing evolution of, inexhaustibility and realness and constant. There. Okay.
We have about 5 minutes.
Okay. Can we be done now?
Yeah. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You don't feel